I'm Brooklyn Parlane. I'm in last semester of the Police Foundations program, and I'm hoping to one day be a police officer. Indigenous peoples may not necessarily be seen in social media in the light that their culture actually represents, and I wanted to learn more about how we can reconcile that. There isn't very much focus on their actual cultural practices in a positive light of how they can share their message with us and really allow us to learn more about their cultures as well. And sometimes news broadcasters, for example, if they're not really living that experience, they're not really going to be the people to be able to explain that experience either. Reconciliation basically to me means doing your best to really open your mind and really draw in other resources and individual practices and individual perceptions to really learn about a culture that you're not familiar with. And if you're not familiar with a term, research it. Doing something so slight as that can really help you open your mind to what Indigenous cultures are.
My name is Brendan Vreiswick, and I'm in the Protection, Security, and Investigations program. Indigenous people are overrepresented in the criminal justice system, so it's important to take into consideration, one, that overrepresentation. When dealing with Indigenous people, maybe we can find other extrajudicial matters to resolve issues in my profession involving Indigenous people. I would love to interact more with the community. I think after taking this course, I think I will start to look for more opportunities to interact with Indigenous events and groups to try to help better my understanding and help foster their kind of cultural practices.
My name is Jasmine Sawada, and the course I took was about the Indigenous and Métis peoples. When I took this course, I learned more in depth about what the Indigenous people went through, but also about who they are. And that was eye-opening for me, honestly, and it was really beautiful. Nowadays, like, the Indigenous and Métis community, they're treated very unfairly due to the Indian Act, and also like the fact that people can marry out of the Indian Act, or like if they get like certain education, like they're not considered Indian, they don't get that status anymore. And that just, it seems really unfair. If you're educated or if you choose to get married, regardless of who you get married to, you shouldn't be losing that status. You're still who you are. I'm Sikh, like that's my religion, and I realized there was a lot of similarity between the teachings in like Sikhism and the teachings that are taught in Indigenous culture. The oneness that I already mentioned, right? And like a sense of like equality of oneself and nature, and to treat everybody equally and just to have that like love. And I noticed that there are many different religion cultures that teach the same things, but we tend to be too focused on the differences instead of like finding that one thing that bonds all of us together.
My name is Emma Morden, and I'm taking Police Foundations, my second year and last semester. For me, I'm Mi'kmaq, so from Nova Scotia, and it's nice knowing about different Indigenous cultures because a lot of people group them as the same, and they're not. Like a lot of my peers, they thought when you think about Indigenous people or First Nations, that they're all the same, that they all celebrate the same cultures, they all do the same thing, and it's not. For me, going back to like residential schools, right? They made a big effect in my family, but going back on the assimilations, those are a few things like cutting hair, stripping identities, names, all of those things. Like for me, my grandfather, that happened to him. So our identity was stripped, his name was changed, his last name was changed. So things like that definitely is to talk about. Here at Durham College, they do a lot of land acknowledgements, but I think they're very important, especially when you're learning on the land. Again, back when I was younger, there was no such thing as land acknowledgements, right? So I think it's very important. For me, reconciliation means coming together, bonding, moving past or moving forward, but not forgetting the past that has happened. Here in Canada, the history is very important, and we've had a dark history. So for reconciliation, I think it's very important to bring those forward and not forget, but you can also move on from the past.